Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nick and Sanjee podcast, where we share our tips and tricks on how to start and grow a YouTube channel as we ourselves go on that journey. How are you today, Nick?
I'm good. I mentioned last episode, I think, I had a bit of a tickle in my throat and I got a cold and now I'm at the end of it. So hopefully not much longer. But yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm managing heat today in terms of, I think it's a 40-degree day where
Oh
I'm
man.
staying
Wow.
in a non-air conditioned room. Some challenges
Oh,
there,
yeah.
but other than that, we're okay.
Yeah.
So today we've got an exciting podcast episode for everyone. Where we're talking through how do you pitch yourself, whether that's to sponsors, to guests that you might be keen to bring on board, or if you just want to weigh for someone who's maybe interested in working with you, how do you present yourself on, say, a one-pager or 2 pages where they want to know, please explain a bit about yourself, your channel, what you stand for, what your audience is like. Because often, if these organizations, whether it be a sponsor or someone who wants to appear on your channel, will want to start by knowing what's in it for me. That's always a question that everyone's got, is what's in it for me if I were to work with you? If you're a content creator, one of the key things you need to learn about is how you market your platform to others to be able to use. So this is something I myself am curious about. I've built the platform, but I've not really marketed it that well. And I think it'll be great, Nick, to chat to you about this because I know this is something you've thought about and you've had a bit of experience in exploring on this. So I first started thinking about this when I saw an episode from Firm Learning where he was showing how you can build PowerPoint decks and various things. And it's a bit nerdy, but the key thing was in there, he was doing an example where he was building a PowerPoint deck to explain himself, his YouTube channel, and the kind of things that he offered. So he was showing how you can build things around the audience, the age group of your audience, how much reach the channel has, all those kind of nice, useful metrics that you can put into a single page PDF or a 2-page PDF. And along with it, offer your services to say, you've got this X dollar service or this Y dollar service, and here are my contact details. So that's what first got me thinking about it. And then, Nick, I think I was chatting to you about this a while ago, and you mentioned you had actually had some experience building these types of things.
Yeah, I created a media kit for my channel probably the start of last year, I think, when I went full time, or maybe just a bit before. And I think I had been thinking about it because I think when I first started my channel, I was thinking about it more in terms of what I was going to get out of it. Like I wanted to create a business that, was flexible for me, that was my own type of content that I was interested in, all that type of stuff. And then I started getting brands wanting to send me stuff, like free products, and that was great. And then it got to the point where I was trying to go full time with it. So I was trying to make more income from my channel. I think that's when I started to think, okay, how can I get brands to actually sponsor me, like to give me, actual cash rather than just free products? And that's when I think I started thinking more seriously about, presenting it, like you said, what I can give to brands rather than just what can I get from a brand.
Yeah.
Because if I want to get cash from a brand, then I have to think about what they want in return and like how I'm going to serve them. And I think I can't remember who I heard say it. It might have been Tom Noski. He talked about how a lot of people don't make a lot of effort when it comes to working with brands. They just sort of they expect a lot. I think it's that sort of mindset again. As content creators, I think it can be easy to think about it in terms of what's in it for me and what can I get out of it. And so I think, a lot of people will just be like, oh yeah, it's going to cost you $1,000 for me to make, a 30-second reel or something like that. But they don't really give the brand any sort of assurance of what that's going to mean for the brand. And so I think a media kit is like just a good starting point to show that you're serious, that you're professional, and that you're thinking about the needs of the brand. I think that's how I look at it. And just to give them a bit of background information on your channel and the kind of value that you can offer. So that's kind of how I think about it.
I think those key themes around professionalism and just like YouTube's actually become quite professional now. Like
Mm.
everyone's raising the bar. Everyone's learning from Mr. Beast. Everyone's learning from Ali Abdaal. I need to have clean cuts. I need to have nice titles. I need to have a great storyline. And so as that bar gets raised, people want to advertise more on the platform. And naturally then the way the creator communicates about what's on offer needs to improve. So yeah, absolutely. Some of the questions, and we'll work through these as we run through it, but some of the initial questions that I think someone like myself or one of our listeners who might have around building this out is what exactly is involved in this pitch deck or media kit. Another one will be, how much detail should I go into? What should I include in there? What should I not include in there? What are some key metrics that I should really lean on? What are some areas where maybe I don't have as much information? Is that okay if I don't include that? And what are some great examples that we've maybe seen out there? Or is this something that I have to build from scratch, or is it something that I can use a service to help build it out? So let's start with some of those initial things. In a nutshell, Nick, what would you describe is a media kit or a pitch deck?
Probably just like an initial, like a document that gives a brand an overview of who you are, what your channel's about, and then some basic statistics and demographic info. So like that's often kind of the upfront stuff that they're wanting to learn about. Like who your audience is, does it match with their target audience? Demographic info as well, obviously. Like are you speaking to the kinds of people who are likely to buy their product? And then just a bit of information about yourself, just to make sure that the two brands align, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got the info. So, for example, for me, it might be Sanjee Sen. I talk about personal finance and investing and not advice, life experience, let's go with.
Yeah.
And then in there, I've got a YouTube channel which has X many subscribers. This kind of watch time. Is watch time a metric that you would typically put in, or?
I'd say probably anything. I mean, based on my experience, I would just say anything that shows the brand the value that you're offering them. So if you've got like really good watch time or attention on all your videos, for example, then that's probably a good statistic to include. Like for me, I think I've got in my media kit, the main statistics I include is just subscribers, monthly views on average, and then demographic info. So like the percentage male to female, the locations that they're in, my top locations, and then the age groups. And the idea is, again, I think to me, it's like just to start the conversation, because often they'll look through it in the initial email, and then the conversation in terms of negotiation around fees starts from there. Yeah, so that's kind of how I say it. Yeah.
So this is interesting because I think in some of our notes in the pre-chat, you noted your experience using one versus not using one. Tell us a bit about what the difference is, and also how the conversation goes when you are using one.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think still to this day I find the conversation with brands really varies. Some are really friendly and like wanting to chat through details. Some are not so friendly and just like they'll give you a flat fee and it's just there's no other conversation. And so I think I found when I wasn't using the media kit and I would ask for a fee, most of the time it would be a no. Like I'd hardly ever get a yes. And but then when I started using the media kit, I would get more yeses. So essentially, it just increased the amount of yeses I got, or at least it increased the amount of conversations that continued to negotiations, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And I think the key thing was just that it proved to the brand that I was more serious and more professional, rather than just some guy with an email address, like saying, "Oh, hey, can you pay me for a video?" It's like, no, I'm a legit business. Here's my media kit. Here's some of my basic fees. And then like, oh, okay, this guy's, hopefully knows what he's talking about. Let's chat with him. So.
Yeah. Okay. Would you put, here's a bit of a sidewinder question. Do you put in information about like obviously this is after you've gone for a bit, but would you put in information about previous brands you've worked with or examples of when you've worked with a brand and this is a product that you helped advertise? Like, would you put that in a media kit?
I've put in my media kit, I put like previous brands that I've worked with,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they're like well-known
Mm.
brands. Like that definitely helps because I think it adds credibility to your case. And I have caught up with, like, I think I mentioned in a previous podcast, like a brand manager of a well-known brand. And one of the things he told me about negotiating sponsorships and in relation to media kits was just, anything that helps prove to the brand the value that you bring, basically.
Yeah.
So he even talked about providing past cases of how you've promoted a product and then showing things like click-through rates or the amount of sales you got of that particular product, that type of thing, because that just adds heaps of credibility to your case. That's
Yeah.
something I should really start doing, I think, because I haven't done that in my immediate kit. Maybe I should add some case examples because I think I've got some decent ones there that I could definitely include. So I think again it just goes back to anything that proves your value.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like, if I had worked with someone before, I would then, I guess, go back to that person or get some data on how successful our partnership was. And then I can put that in the media kit to say, I worked with this brand, I promoted this product or this service, and they saw a 10% click-through rate on the link. And then they, that particular company can then figure out, how good that is compared to, because you're right, it's probably a comparables kind of situation too, because they're probably sitting there saying, we've got 10 grand, we've got 20 grand marketing budget.
Yep.
Where's the best return on investment? Do we give it to a YouTuber who can get us a 10% return on it or a 10% click through? Do we put it on a Facebook, which gets a 1% click through or something like that? Yeah.
Totally. Because they're probably just working off averages, like industry averages in terms of what influencers might get, but it's still pretty individual, case by case. And because my audience is so different to your audience, for example, there's no way to know for sure unless you've got data already there, to give you some sort of idea of what the click-through rate is going to be. Yeah.
Super interesting. All right, well, let's talk practicalities. So my initial thought was this is something I could make on PowerPoint or say Microsoft Word if I wanted to do it. But, if you were to start one from scratch, what would you suggest is the way to go about it, both in terms of building one yourself and maybe some of the services that are out there?
Yeah, totally. I reckon, because that's one thing I've been looking into myself as well, some of the services. Some of them, the one I use is called Passionfruit. That's been pretty good. There's another one called Beacons.ai, and there's also a StreamElements media kit service. And basically, they're just like online platforms where you can basically import all that information, like average views, subscribers, that type of thing. And then brands can just basically search through the platform for content creators that might match their target audience.
Okay.
And so then they can just directly contact you through that platform. So I've gotten a few brand deals through that sort of system. I think it's an easy, straightforward way of setting it up, and a relatively passive way because people, like brands, will then approach you. You don't have to go out and find them and send your media kit to them. So I reckon I'd potentially would recommend starting there for anyone who hasn't had that much experience with brands before, because it's all pretty structured and pretty easy. But if you do want to create your own, I think that's obviously the more ideal route is to create your own because it's kind of more professional and more personal. I did mine in Photoshop, but I've got like background experience with Photoshop, so it's not as easy for everyone. But otherwise, like Canva is really good. It's got really good templates that you could probably easily reformat into a media kit. So that's probably the one I'd recommend, honestly. I mean, you could use PowerPoint as well for sure, if you've got good PowerPoint skills. I mean, whatever you're most comfortable with, really, like whatever's going to produce the most professional looking result.
Yeah, my only skills in life are a little bit around Excel and PowerPoint. I just
Yeah,
those are always my
right.
defaults in terms of technology to use.
Yeah,
But that's great, and we'll include links in whatever platform you're listening to those. But yeah, that was Passion Fruit with an F. So
mm,
Passion and FROOT,
yeah,
Beacons AI and StreamElements. And I think the importance of using those platforms, I think, as well is like you said, number one, it makes it easy for the brands to find you because they can
yeah,
just go as a one-stop shop. The second thing is as well as like it's not as easy to make up the numbers, I guess, because passion fruit as the middleman
yeah,
is
yep,
helping verify the numbers. Um, Naturally, everyone can always quickly figure out how much truth you're saying if if you put you've got 1 million subscribers and they go to your site and you've only got 10,000.
yeah,
But I imagine some of those other key metrics around click through, um, it's more backed up if it's coming from a passion fruit or a beacons, I imagine. So
yeah.
that's
And
good.
I think as well, like another advantage to having your own media kit is you can customize it for each brand.
Mm,
Because I think it was Passion Fruit. It might have been a different platform that I've used. You can put in set rates so that brands can see your rates up front for different services, like a integration in a long form video or a full review or whatever it is, you can fully customize it. Whereas if you do your own, then you can um, tailor your pricing and your package to each individual brand. And this is kind of how I tend to do it. I tend to play it case by case. Some brands I'm more willing to just take free products from. Some brands I'm more keen to do a sponsorship deal with. Depends on the brand. So that's another advantage of doing it with your own custom one. Plus, I have noticed as well, if you take the time to really tailor the media kit to the brand. So I've experimented a bit with including an entire page in my media kit dedicated to that brand and how I think we'd work well together. And when I've done that, they seem to really appreciate that because it's really showing a lot of effort, to try and again show your worth to the brand and how it could be mutually beneficial. So
yeah, yeah, great. And I think I was actually thinking if anyone there is wondering why they might, why this is important to them, I think you're a good example, Nick, because I've built my channel mainly on AdSense or like only on AdSense. I've not really worked with any sponsors. And for me, I would say that's because most of the people who have approached me for sponsorship were from companies and platforms that I myself wasn't using.
mm,
And I've said this in my previous videos, is like I don't, or I've never even heard of, like I don't feel comfortable necessarily advertising something that I'm not using or I haven't actively used or I would never use really.
yeah,
Um, and the companies that I do want to sponsor me are companies that don't need sponsorship because they're not struggling to get customers. So I'm pretty
yeah,
mainstream that it doesn't work as well. But I think for yourself in terms of like your experience and your overall revenue, like if you're comfortable with saying what proportion of your overall income from search, like your work around content creation, would you say comes from sponsorship? Or overall, what proportion would you say that is?
I'd say it's still relatively low, probably 10 to
Okay.
20%, something like
Okay.
that, around
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Um, I'm kind of working at the moment towards having regular, like monthly sponsors.
Yep.
So building long-term relationships with, a brand that could do, 1 or 2 videos per month. I think that's what I really like to do because then I've got consistent, dependable income each month.
Yep.
So I'm, yeah, chatting with a few brands at the moment, trying to get that to work. So we'll see how that goes. Because I think,
Yeah.
it'd be good to have that baseline. But it does vary a lot. That's the big downside to sponsorships that I've found. Like some sponsors
Yes.
are willing to pay a lot of money, some aren't willing to pay a single cent. Some just want to
Yeah.
send you a free product. Like it does vary a lot, and it can be it can take up a lot of mental energy. Trying to figure out how much to charge and making sure
Yeah.
the deliverables are on time and making sure it's up to their standard. Um, but I was going to ask you, like, have you had any offers from brands that from services or products that you were interested in?
There was one that came through, and at the time I wasn't interested in the service of the product, but since I've actually started using that service, so it's a platform that lets you monitor the performance of your share portfolio, let's say.
Right. Yep.
And I think broadly, if you're someone who's just buying one or two ETFs, or you're just investing here or there, you wouldn't need the service. But as you maybe get a bit more advanced or a bit more complicated, and also as your tax requirements might get more complicated, and you want to be better at having your reporting, everyone should report their taxes properly, of course.
Yeah.
But if you've got some more complicated tax affairs in there, it
Yep.
helps to have some automated reporting. In that case, this platform was handy. So I was actually going through my old emails, and I did find their offer from a while ago. I thought, it's a while ago. I probably won't approach them. But that's probably the one example. Outside of that, it's some brands I've heard of, but I don't use their product, and I'm like, I'm just not comfortable with this.
Right.
Others have been, they've just said, can we get a spot on one of your videos? What would it look like? And this, and some of them are always from, like, I've had 4 different people from the same company contact me.
Right. Yep.
And I think it's usually, you've probably seen as well, it's usually the case of either someone's resigned and they churn through people, and I'm on some obvious, like, common list for them to just work through.
Yep.
And I mean, for now, my general response has always been, thanks for reaching out. I'm just focusing on building my brand. I'm not really looking to any sponsorships right now.
Right.
But even the number you said, 10%, that's, on a decent sized channel, that's not an inconsiderable amount of money. And I think, I definitely think, listening to Ali Abdaal at times, he's quoted like 30 to 40%. So I think there's definitely scope for, as you optimize that aspect of it and you get those consistent people, it can definitely grow.
100%. I've noticed, even as my channel has grown, people are increasingly willing to discuss a fee, whereas before, when I was smaller, it just wasn't really even an option.
Yep.
But I was going to say, for you, even if you had stuff that you hadn't used before, you could potentially see if they'd give you, access to their service, or send you a free product for you to try and then see if you like it. Because I find that pretty common, where they'll be willing to send me a product to try out, even if I don't make any content with it. Because then, if I do like it, then I'll make a video out of it. So it's an option.
Yeah, and I think that's what one of these was, because it was a I think they just said, we'll give you a free access to it if you can make a video about it.
Right.
And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Whereas, other times it can be advertise this, will give you 10% of this, or 1% of that, or $1 referral fee, all of that. It's also getting tricky though in the personal finance space. Because if you're going to advertise anything and you're not a financial advisor, you shouldn't be doing it, I think, is the key thing. So, but books, I can advertise books. So if you have any books you want me to review, send it through. So, all right, well, I think that's really all the big notes on this one. So I think if you want to start, obviously there's some easy platforms to get started on. You can build out your own. Are there any good examples out there, Nick, or any companies or content creators that you think are doing a good job of it? And let's look at this holistically. Number one, that they've got some good examples of media kits out there, but also number two, their channel is quite good for someone to want to sponsor on. So their channel, from what you've heard, you've seen that they run their channel and their aesthetics are such that, hey, this is a great channel. If your channel's more like this, it'll probably help you get some sponsorship. Curious if you have some of that.
I would say, to get a media kit, if you just want to buy one, go to Tom Nosche's website. I think it's just tomnoske.com. Tom, Noske. He's got a really good media kit. I think it's super high quality. It looks really good. I think it's like $40. Well, it's not super cheap, but it would pay for itself if you got some good brand deals out of it. And then in terms of thinking about improving your content and your channel to attract brands, to me, I think still the gold standard, in my niche at least, is Olia. So Ultralinks, Olia, Olia Online. Like, from everything I hear, he's one of the most expensive content creators to buy an ad spot on, and I think a big part of that is just because his video quality is so high, and he associates himself with high-end products and expensive stuff. So I think brands want to be associated with him because he's known for expensive and high quality products, and I think he does have the evidence to back it up as well. So I think it's worth checking out his channel for inspiration on how to improve your quality. Yeah,
fantastic, and we'll have some links below. So with that, let's move on to our tip of the week, and we've actually kept it relevant. What's the tip of the week this week, Nick?
Yeah, I'll keep it quick because I basically already mentioned it, but it's just Canva. If you haven't used Canva before, if you haven't heard of Canva, I definitely recommend it for all sorts of things, anything design related. Have you used Canva before, Sanjee?
I've used it for the odd Instagram post.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, if you're good with Photoshop, I feel like the skills are pretty translatable to Canva. So I reckon it's a great place to create a media kit. So if you don't have one, you don't have a lot of Photoshop skills, or if you don't have PowerPoint skills, then definitely check out Canva. You can do some really professional looking designs pretty easily. It's all very straightforward, point and click stuff. And then the benefit is if you save that as a template, you can always edit it in the future, update it, customize it for different brands like we talked about. So that's my tip of the week.
Perfect. Awesome, Nick. So where can people find you on the internet?
I am Nick Kendall on YouTube, and then my newsletter is Create Better. So you can sign up below. How about you?
I am Sanjee Sen on YouTube and Sanjee Sen on the computer. Sanjee Sen on the website and on X as well. And no newsletter. Oh, actually, I do have a newsletter, but I'm not very active on it. Actually, Nick, have you considered sponsorship sections on your newsletter at some point as well?
I have. I'm trying to build it so it's a bit bigger, and I've got like higher click-throughs.
Yep.
But it's definitely on the horizon for sure.
Awesome. All right, well, please do check out some of our other episodes. One that I think might be interesting, especially if you're at this stage, is around building out the channel in other ways, is we did one around newsletters, and should a YouTuber have a newsletter? What's the value of it? That's probably one worth checking out. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye for now.